Hamas says it wants a ceasefire. This deal is an opportunity to prove whether they really mean it. Hamas needs to take the deal. For months, people all over the world have called for a ceasefire.
Joe Biden laying out a ceasefire proposal that would include an Israeli hostage deal, urging Hamas to take it. Hamas, in a response, saying, quote, it views positively the contents of President Joe Biden's speech, calling the deal, quote, the result of the legendary steadfastness of our struggling people and their brave resistance. Here with reaction is Senior VP for Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Dr. Jonathan Schanzer. Doctor, we'll get into the policy specifics in a moment, but why does Hamas love this so much?
Well, quite frankly, because Hamas is going to be able to exist after this war if this ceasefire is implemented. Joe Biden is basically saying that it's okay that the organization that has carried out the murder of 1,200 people and the kidnapping of 240 and launched a war that has devastated Gaza and brought the Middle East on the verge of a full regional war, they don't have to pay a price. They will still actually survive after this, if I'm reading this plan correctly, the plan that the president floated yesterday.
You're exactly right. It feels like Hamas would have written this plan. We'll put it up there. It's still very ambiguous, but it's 3 phases. The first is a 6-week ceasefire, which is what the left and what Hamas really, really want. And again, there's hostages, and that's very important. But then phase 2 is permanently end the hostilities. Based on what? Based on the destruction of Hamas? Certainly not. And then major reconstruction, and Israel leaves completely handing it back over to Hamas. This looks like a survival plan, as you said, for Hamas in exchange for hostages, which is good. But the progress Israel has made, in large part, is reason why they've gotten hostages back.
That's right. And really, if you think about it, the Israelis are on the 5-yard line right now. All they have to do is to essentially finish the war in Rafah. This is the town right on the border with Egypt.
Yep.
It's probably about 3 weeks of fighting. That's what the Israelis estimate right now. And then the hard fighting of this war would be over. And I think most of the headlines from this war would probably recede into the background. There would, of course, I think, be counterinsurgency operations that the Israelis would have to continue to kind of take out the final remnants of Hamas. But what it looks like right now, from my perspective, is the Biden administration is telling the Israelis not to finish this, not to get into the end zone. They want the Israelis to stop right now and to allow for Hamas, for Iran, for Hezbollah. You got to remember, this is an entire axis that is trained and financed and armed by the Iranians. They've been waging war on multiple fronts, not just in Gaza, but also in Lebanon and the West Bank and in Iraq and Syria and Yemen. No one will have to pay a price for any of this. The Israelis are basically just being told, look, get your hostages back and stop fighting. That does not seem like anything the Israelis are going to buy.
Proposals like this are why wars never end, because enemies are never defeated, and therefore they continue their cause, which in Hamas's case, funded by Iran, as you point out, is the absolute eradication and destruction of Israel. Real quick, this was painted by the Biden administration as something the Israelis are for. We only have about 30 seconds. Do you think Israelis really want this deal?
Now, I mean, we're seeing Israeli politicians across the political spectrum, left, right, and center, are panning this thing. I think they appreciate the effort, but they do not appreciate the specifics.
Yeah, it's good. You got to kill every last one of Hamas, and then you can figure out what happens next. Dr. Jonathan Schanzer, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to see you.